Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to a Notch Higher YouTube Living channel where this space is created so that healthy relationship skills can be learned, developed, practiced, and ultimately thrive. Today, I have a wonderful guest, a friend and CEO, Nicole Stokes from Build Oneself. So I'm going to actually go right in and have Nicole introduce yourself and talk about yourself and what Build Oneself is all about. Take it away, Nicole.
Hi, Jasmine. Thanks so much for having me today. So, I wanted to start off a little bit about sharing my personal and professional background to lead into how Build Oneself was actually developed. So, from a personal standpoint, I am married to my husband of 20 plus years, and thank you. And I have a daughter who is 23 years old, Alexis, who is a graduate of the Lawrenceville School and also a graduate of Princeton, the class of 2020. But my
You said
person,
Princeton?
yes, Princeton University.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So my story, personally and professionally connected, is that I've worked with young people, students starting as early as, say, 11 years old or 13 years old, helping them in my church ministry. I was the person who students would come to, or young people would come to, for whatever reason, and ask for help with filling out an application or applying for a job or starting their first resume. I've always just helping students really build what they would call their first start of a personal brand. So I started doing that work roughly over 20 years ago in the church ministry. And then I, over the years, just began to volunteer with different organizations, helping young people again understand themselves and to begin to build their brand and apply their skills. And over the years, what I learned is that this is something that I have really wanted to do and I think was born to do in terms of helping young people identify their potential and maximize it as a young person and then leading into adulthood. So, roughly about 6 years ago, I would say, I had the opportunity, just because of some personal circumstances, to begin working full time in this area. And when I say in this area, I mean career development, college planning, and really just understanding the value of higher education. And so I left my job as a human resources professional. I've worked in human resources and management for a number of years and done career development work. But I decided I wanted to devote my time exclusively to, again, helping young people as early as age 11 or so, middle school students, all the way to college level students through graduate school, and really just focus in on skill development. And that ranges from a variety of different areas. And so today, I am very proud to say that I have worked with a number of students over the years from all economic, socioeconomic backgrounds, geographic backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, et cetera, to help them in a variety of different areas. Those areas could include, again, applying to high school and trying to understand the high school fit, to everything to applying to college or applying for that first job or internship or even that professional opportunity. So that's where I'm at today. I absolutely love what I do. It's not a job, it's a personal mission for me. And so, Build Oneself came about because I believe that as individuals, we need to build ourselves.
That's beautiful. I love it. And build oneself, like you said, it is strategic engagement of one's life forever. Where did that name come from? How did you come up with that powerful name for the company?
Yeah, so I just believe that in order for any individual to thrive in society, They have to understand that everything that is needed to, endure success in whatever that success means personally comes from oneself. You have to build your own skills, your own confidence, your own love for yourself, and be strategic about what you do.
Wow.
And having a strategy, even
So
as
true.
an 11-year-old, all the way going through college is very, very important. And we don't really think about ourselves in terms of strategy and having a
Mhm.
plan, but that was kind of what I was thinking when it started, in terms of the company, and just making sure that we constantly focus on developing ourselves over the course of our lives.
I love that because even as you say that, it makes so much sense because it's a skill building tool. So you can build off of that. And if you say that an 11-year-old versus a 21-year-old, like if you start at 11, you're going to have so much more by the time you turn 21. Not to say that if you start at 21, you can't start at that age, but I love how you are strategic and visionary to say, let's start it as young as possible because the self is important. And the more that we build on ourselves, the more productive, successful, positive, and uh, so much more that can come out of our lives. So let's jump right into the interview, actually. So, what would you say the biggest obstacle that you face in having parents see the value of college preparation before they reach the age or the junior or senior year? Like you're talking about a younger age. What is your biggest obstacle?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Jasmine. I think the biggest obstacle that I see with parents is really understanding that high school planning and college planning is not an isolation of what you do just for the purposes of entering into college. The preparation and planning that it takes to become a productive high school student and a productive college student really starts at the elementary and the middle school level.
Wow.
So, absolutely.
Wow.
So, in my conversations with parents, often they're not really sure or they don't really connect the dots sometimes on how having or building skills as, say, a 10 or an 11-year-old will really impact the student's life or their child's life when they get into middle school. That
Right.
the skills that we, you know, actually endure or are trying to build are life skills, right? They're not skills that we're just building to enter into a high school, the most competitive high school, or a college. These are skills that are needed in order to be a productive person in society. And most importantly, not survive high school and college,
Right.
but
Right.
thrive in a strategic way where you're able to enjoy your experience and maximize all of your opportunities.
Wow, that's powerful, Nicole, because what you're talking about is an integrative approach. It's not simply like you said, I'm doing this particular movement or I'm doing this work just so that I can get into or entry into one particular area of my life. But your approach seems more integrative, where day by day the student, the parent, they're looking at it from a point where this is how I live my life, and I'm actually going to be planning a strategic move into higher education, even at the high school level. And I need to have these skills so that I can thrive in that environment, not simply um, an event. So you're not event oriented, it's more life skill building. That is very powerful because as you were even saying that, I I thought about it. It was my junior and senior year when I was thinking about, okay, what do I want to do um, in relating to college or what I want to do? And I've heard that consistently. I'm listening or asking seniors, okay, where do you plan on going? Oh, I don't know yet. So it's almost like senior year is when people decide what they want to do. That's that's a different approach. Um, So how does your approach, you have already spoken about this, how does your approach to college advisory services differ from traditional preparation for college?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. I would say, a couple of the biggest kind of distinctions in terms of how I support students is that my focus is really on the student themselves and asking the question again, going back to building oneself, is first asking, who are you? Having the
Mm,
student understand who they are as an individual first, and then how do they fit in the context of their communities, right? And students belong to many communities. And how does their identity in those communities really relate to the next phase that they're going to be going to, whether it be going into a high school or going into college? So my focus, Jasmine, is on the whole person and
mm,
identifying your core values. And believe it or not, you can be an 11-year-old. I always choose the age of 11 because I think it's really transformational. But you can understand yourself at 11 or start the journey of understanding yourself as a middle schooler and what things are important to you and why. So
yeah,
dealing with the identities, dealing with the whole person themselves, the young person themselves, their preferences, and their views in life. And so, again, when you talk about attending college, particularly mid level or selective universities, those schools that, seek a certain type of student to come in, they're concerned about the student themselves, the why. Why is this person the way that they are? Why do they get involved in the
yes,
things that they're interested in? So that's my focus, is helping individuals, young people understand themselves again, because if you understand yourself, then
mhm,
you can present yourself in a compelling way to a university, to an employer,
right,
to other individuals who that, eventually you'll work with, whether it be in a team environment,
right.
a work
Personal,
environment,
yes,
sure, or
yes.
project environment.
Exactly. So it's so personal, interpersonal, and professional around the scope of what you do, because what you said, the whole person is a very holistic approach. When we think about on the if the beginning is what we want to do, and then the end point, quote unquote, is getting to that destined career or business or success, so many people on the destined end, they're still looking for a holistic life. They're looking to have their whole integrative life. So it's almost as if you reverse engineer the process, is what I'm hearing, and you're including and infusing the skills and letting people know at a younger age, or parents know, no, this is all integrative now, and this will help you as you continue relating to even each other, it sounds like. Because one thing I do know about your services is that you work with parents, and you work with the parents and the students. So talk about a little bit of what that work looks like with working with parents and students. And I'll be honest, with brown and black communities, where this isn't something that is typical. This isn't something that is of the norm. If we go back historically, we weren't welcomed, or we didn't have advisory services or professionals that had skin color as you have, and especially being a female. So, what does that look like? Why is that important in our brown and black communities?
Yeah, but thanks for that question and those points. So, in order to really address that question, I think it's important that your viewers understand more about our personal journey as a family, meaning my husband Zeb and then
Yes,
Alexis, right? In
please
terms
share.
of our journey,
Mhm.
how she attended one of the top 10 elite boarding schools in the United States, the Lawrenceville School, how she got there in middle school, that
Wow.
journey, right, as a middle schooler.
Yes, yes. And I just want to make a plug that you said boarding school, so that literally boarding school. You'll explain, but boarding school. Continue,
Absolutely.
please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that journey, for her applying and being selected to join the Lawrenceville School to the point of applying to Princeton. So, back when my daughter was in elementary school and the early part of middle school, my husband and I knew that her journey in terms of education was going to be a different journey than most students. Now,
Wow.
I can't tell you other than prayer and insight
Hmm.
how we knew that, but always had a very clear vision and understanding that Alexis is intelligent and that she is a go-getter and she's very self-motivated. And so as a seventh grader, we sought out additional resources
Okay.
for her to help her thrive academically because we weren't necessarily satisfied fully with the school that she was in. So we
Okay.
knew that the high school experience needed to be one that was infused with rigor and the ability to learn more about how the world functioned and her place in it.
Mhm.
And, really not having any borders, if you will, on her thinking
Okay.
and her desire to just understand herself more. And so Alexis applied to be a part of a program called the Yes for Prep
Okay.
program, of which students from Black and Brown communities are identified if they're high achieving in middle school to apply to become students at these selective high schools.
Okay.
Long story short, Alexis applied herself, went through many, many weeks of rigorous coursework and preparation and planning, and was
Mhm.
selected to the Lawrenceville School. She spent 4 years there. The Lawrenceville School is in New Jersey. It is literally about 10 minutes away from Princeton. She thrived, did very, very well at the Lawrenceville School, was a residential advisor, right, to other
Okay.
students in the community. And ultimately, me guiding her through the process of applying to college, because at the time
Mhm.
I was working and focusing in on her, she decided to apply to Princeton and some other selective schools and was admitted. So that's the personal story about our journey. And
Yeah.
why is that story important? That story is important because for parents, the biggest component of thinking about your child and their potential, I believe, is having a vision for them, is having the mindset that they can achieve regardless of the situation, that you need to take your mindset to a whole different place of thinking. In
Okay.
that, for example, with us, we had no knowledge of boarding schools, right? Other than
Right.
we knew that very wealthy individuals, usually non African American students,
Mhm.
had the opportunities to attend these selective schools. It's kind of the 1%, but we
Mhm.
didn't focus on what we thought in terms of us not being prepared
Yes.
financially,
Mhm.
socially, or emotionally in that regard. She applied and went forward. So for parents, it's very important that they have a vision that is huge for their child, that they
Okay.
have a mindset of being open and flexible to whatever opportunity exists.
Mm.
And then, furthermore, as a parent, you have to have the mindset that you'll seek out every opportunity that is available or that you might not even know is available, and every resource and support to find the best opportunities for your child.
I love that. Wow. Wow. Now, when you say that, I know personally, we connected. I believe Alexis, she was in the, I was thinking she was in her sophomore year at Lawrenceville. I believe either sophomore or junior year. But I remember you telling a story about how you entered into the information session. I know that there are going to be some people who say, well, that's good for you. That's good for your family. And I'm glad it all worked out. But a parent who doesn't have a vision for themselves, and I'm not saying everybody doesn't, but how would you speak to a parent who says, well, I don't know how to do that for my child. I've not done that for myself. I think that is something that's important. And how did you and your husband, you had a vision for your child, but I'm sure that you grew in your vision as you went through this process. So can you talk to the parent who may not have a vision for themselves, so they're not understanding how they can get a vision with their child? And then for the parent who does have a vision, sometimes they still have the fear. Can you speak on those two points?
Yeah, that's really, really important. So, and having a vision, sometimes depends a lot on your life experiences, right?
Mhm.
And circumstances and exposure. So for me and my husband, we've always worked with students and worked in
Okay.
schools and in education. So having the background of working in educational settings, I was very fortunate to understand how to evaluate, right?
Okay.
My
Mhm.
daughter's interest, her intellect, asking questions. I had those resources and individuals who could kind of help me formulate a vision for Alexis, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm not an educator, but I've worked around a lot of very smart people who
Mhm.
would give me guiding questions and information. But the biggest thing that I garnered in terms of understanding how to bring this vision out is really listening to Alexis,
Mm.
understanding what her preferences were, the kinds of things that she was interested in, whether it be drawing or whether it be playing an instrument or whether it be writing. So, really seeing her in action. And
Okay.
from there, really asking some questions and sometimes just saying, you know what, let's sit down and write some goals or just figure out what you might be interested in, Alexis. Okay, if you're interested in art, maybe I'll sign you up for an art class, right? Just for,
Makes
2 weeks
sense.
or
Yes.
something like that. If you're
Mhm.
interested in music, of which she was, okay, let's get you started playing the double bass, of which that was an instrument of choice.
Okay.
So having her get involved in certain activities, even if some of the activities weren't things that she was initially interested in, but I allowed her
Mhm.
to try them on a temporary basis. That was the way in which we kind of helped to develop her vision and to help her understand her preferences. Sometimes you have to just experiment or allow kids to experiment or to explore their interests.
Mhm.
And from there, again, continue to ask questions and get them out there volunteering and talking to people so that they begin to kind of think about, I like this, but I don't like that. Or maybe I want to learn more. And that's
Right.
a process. So that's what I would
Most
say.
definitely.
It is a
Okay.
process helping to develop your child's vision and journey of exploration.
Wow. It's very intentional, the process, as you said. It's not something that, even if this was your first child, your only child, so even if you had no experience, you and your husband were willing to go through a different process to engage your daughter. And in turn, I'd imagine that you and your husband, you both were stretched as well, because you had to research, you had to look. So it is an integrative approach. You didn't just leave her out by herself, so to speak, to figure it out. So that moment of connection is important for all of us. We need to be able to stretch outside of our comfort zone. So I want to talk about Build Oneself, and I have some information, so I'm just going to read it. The Build Oneself team has the expertise and resources needed to counsel students and parents through each step of the college admission process to reduce stress. We will help determine the college path that's right for your student. I love that, and I wanted to share that because in your process, as you stated, you and your family, you went through the process yourself. And then you took it another step. You started helping other families and other organizations that come to you to be able to connect the dots in the college admission process. What is one thing that you want parents to know as they are considering possibly working with a college advisory professional, independent or otherwise? What are some helpful tips that parents can look at and know? And I'm going to say with working with you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Yes.
So I think one of the biggest tips, or I guess considerations that a parent should think about is themselves and their family situation, right? So whether you're a single parent or a two parent family, you have to understand what your goals are for your children, right?
Mhm.
If your goal, right, is for your children to attend college and to have options of colleges to consider, and to also have funding available potentially to attend college to reduce the costs to the family or taking out student loans. The biggest thing is that having someone like myself will allow you the opportunity to have a plan. So you need to have a plan. And so for myself, I work with families on having and developing a plan that is family centered, right?
Mm.
Example, again, if for your family or for someone else's family, if the financial consideration of attending college and not taking on massive student debt is a priority, then there needs to be a realistic plan that is executed to achieve that goal. Because guess what? Attending college is one of the biggest investments that a family will take on, and even a risk in some regard. Why would I say it's a risk? Because not a lot of students, statistically speaking, attend college. These are Black and Brown students, attend college and graduate in 4 years, right? So if you're talking about taking on a college advisor, it's very, very important that the advisor, myself, understand your family goals and work with you in terms of achieving those goals. And those goals could be in a variety of different areas. And so, with that being said, my approach to working with families is to build a team, right? Working collaboratively and understanding that every member of our team is important. Who's the most valuable player? Your child is the most valuable player. I'm their coach. I'm the person to set the roadmap and to also coach the parents. So that's what I would say the parents need to consider is that my approach is very family focused and it is individualized to meet your child's needs.
That's amazing. And I love how you talked about the team approach because that is very, very challenging, I believe, for a lot of people who have an individualistic perspective or viewpoint. So it's either I or me, or it's not typically a teamwork aspect. So I love that approach and that people can know that it's not themselves only. And then sometimes I think the way that you've even explained it, sometimes we need to learn how to function as a team, especially a healthy team. So I love how you brought those pieces together and the importance of the players because when we know our part in the game or our role, we're able to function and execute beautifully. So you mentioned costs. So talk to that parent who would say, well, this sounds like it's going to be a little pricey. Can you talk about the difference between the cost and the value that you provide? You talked about how people will work with you, but talk about cost and value because I do believe, honestly, that's a perspective shift that a lot of us, and I want to bring it to like really I don't want to say basic, but a realistic level. Sometimes when we're thinking about moving forward into a different realm or area of our life, we can be hindered because of the way that our limiting beliefs say as internally says to us, that's going to be outside of your league. What's the cost? But I do know the difference between cost and value. If this is going to cost me, if my phone costs me $50, but the value that I have in getting business that comes in or connecting with people, just say over a year, I spend $50 a month. I'm just saying, but I ultimately have $6,000 come in monthly. That cost and the value of that cost, it doesn't match. So talk about cost and value.
Yeah, so thanks for asking that question. So one of the big points that I want to make here is that from a cost standpoint, cost is important, but what's most important is that you understand that there's an investment that is being made in your child, right?
Yes.
So you must think about the time that I would be spending as a college advisor working with you as the parent and your child as an investment. And so when you think about investment, we know that investments are long term,
Yes.
typically, right? We
Yes.
define long term in many different ways. But in terms of the work that I do and the collaboration with parents, you are investing your time in understanding how to put a plan and a strategy together that's going to work, not just for the college planning process, but again, for a lifetime.
Yes.
So when we talk about the time that it takes to develop an action plan and the resources that it takes, there's only 24 hours in a day. I know when I was working with my daughter and trying to get her into the boarding school and the college application process, Jasmine, I was working day and night because it was
Okay.
just me working day and night, and I really needed help, right?
Okay.
Right. But
Yes.
I knew that I had the will and the desire to take on the work myself. And so I did it.
Yeah.
So for parents, they need to understand that they only have 24 hours in a day, and the financial resources that they spend on college planning is really going to help them maximize their time, the time that they need in order to work and to do other activities to help their family thrive, right? Not just
Yes.
survive. And so I'm the partner that can really help them maximize their time and also spend their time doing the right activities, spend their time doing the right tasks. Because
That's
sometimes you're
important.
spending your time doing things
Yes.
that are not
Yes.
productive. So the time again and the cost, it's really not about the cost. It's about the investment that you're going to make in your child so that on this continuum of life, your child is going to understand him or herself in a way that they didn't know, and then be able to sell themselves, right? To be able to brand themselves with
And
confidence.
yes, present. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, share. Yes, show. Love
Absolutely.
it.
So that's
Yeah.
very important. And
Yes.
so, with that being said, it's all about investment. You have to think about the investment and not the cost.
That's perfect because just as you stated, an investment, when we think investment mindset, a return comes on an investment. Cost is more of I put something in the bucket and it's gone. So
Yes.
even the way you explained it, the family is investing, the single parent is investing in the lives of their child or children and their family because it's a team approach
Yes.
because the child will impact the rest of the family and the family impacts the rest of the child. So it's not what you're offering is not a one tiered approach. It's multifaceted. It's holistic. Everyone grows. Everyone benefits from this planning process because even as you stated, the preparation process is helping them prepare and to enter the actual college experience, which is a process in of itself. And a lot of people, they only think of getting to college as the end game. That's just the entry place. There's so much more. So if someone will want to work with you and build oneself and your team, how can they do that? Can they reach out to you? I can definitely put your information in the description box, but how does that process start?
Sure. Yeah. So parents can email me simply at Nicole Stokes 00 at gmail.com, or they can reach
Okay.
out to me on LinkedIn as well. I would probably say 90+% of the families that I work with are through referrals. So I really don't need to do a lot of marketing
Okay.
because I have so many families, fortunately, and students that refer others. And so I'm very fortunate in that regard. And I'd love to talk with any parents or any students that might be interested.
Beautiful. Now, if a parent or just say someone who doesn't have children, they're not interested yet, but they want to share your services with someone. I know in the past you've had webinars. So for someone who's interested in getting more information, can they just reach out to you as well? And what I'm going to venture to say, I'm going to work back or come and circle back with Nicole, and we're going to put something on where we'll have a webinar where that can be something that you send out to people. So if someone is interested in that, can they simply email you as well?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love
Okay.
to talk with anyone who just has a question or, a thought about something. Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm giving myself that challenge in 2022. I'm going to come with Nicole and we're going to put together a webinar so that we have something to present to people consistently to share what you offer. And then that's something that's evergreen and you can always give it to others. But in the space of developing ourselves and creating healthy relationship skills, which is what your services provide, where people are learning, they're developing, practicing so they can ultimately thrive. I am so grateful that Build Oneself came to be the way that your personal story all came together. And I'm so glad that you're my friend and that I am in your sphere of connection. And I hope and I pray blessings on top of blessings that your business will scale to reach the masses, not simply for numbers, but for impact. And that people that are Black and Brown, all skin types, colors, ethnicities, men, gender, that they can know that what they put their mind to, they can achieve. They may have to plan, they may have to partner, and they know that they have a purpose, and they will need to know that they have a purpose, but it is possible. So, if there's anything else that you would like to share with our viewers, please do. And I'm so grateful that you came today.
Oh, thank you so much, Jasmine. And I'm thanking all of the viewers that are out there and just wanting to encourage you again to think big, whether you're a parent or you're a young person, just to really have the imagination and the creativeness to know that you can do all things and
Yes.
that there is help, right? There's support for you. And so, I just encourage you as we go into the new year, 2022. And thank you again so much, Jasmine. I really appreciate you.
You are welcome. Thank you. So that is our interview today. I'm so grateful that we had Nicole Stokes, CEO of Build Oneself, on today. So until next time, take care.